In this video, we will hook up a Sureservo system and quickly jog the motor to verify proper operation. You will need a Sureservo drive, a Sureservo motor, a motor power cable, motor feedback cable, and a power source. Most importantly, you should have a copy of the Sureservo manual. You can purchase a copy of the manual, or you can download it for free from the AutomationDirect.com website or the Sureservo.com website. Hooking up a Sureservo system is easy. The encoder cable connects to the motor lead and to the drive. The motor power cable is connected to the other motor lead and then to the drive with 3 discrete connections and a ground. Please note that unlike some other 3-phase motors, the phases for a servo must be connected in the correct order. On a Sureservo, red is connected to U, white to V, and black to W. The green ground wire has a ring terminal pre-installed and is attached at the bottom front of the drive. If you have a brake motor, refer to Chapter 3 for details on connecting the brake leads. Note that all Automation Direct motor power cables include the brake leads regardless of whether your motor has a brake. If your motor has a brake, you will need to apply 24-volt DC to these leads before you can jog the motor. This motor doesn't have a brake, so I've just capped these leads. 2 types of power connections are required for most servo systems, and Sureservo is no exception. The main power connection powers the motor, while a second connection powers the control electronics in the drive. In many installations, an e-stop circuit is required to disconnect the main power, RS and T, while control power to the drive can be maintained for diagnostic and maintenance purposes. It is strongly recommended that you implement an e-stop circuit and proper circuit protection, both for personnel safety and for the protection of the electronics. See Chapter 3 of the manual for recommendations on the size and type of circuit protection for each Sureservo system. Most Sureservo installations will require 3-phase 220 volts for the main power, although the smaller systems will run on single-phase 220. In this case, apply power to R and S only. The control power only requires a single phase. Just provide 220 volts across the L1 and L2 terminals. Double check your wiring. Make sure you've got the required voltage on the correct connectors. Let's power it up. There will be errors. Alarm 14 and Alarm 15 are alarm errors for the over-travel limit switches. See Chapter 8 for an explanation. The drive is configured for normally closed limit switches by default, and we don't have any switches connected, thus these errors. Now we will set some parameters. First we'll set P208 to 10. This will reset the drive to factory defaults. Press the mode once, then press Next until P200 appears. Press the arrow up key until P208 is selected. Press Enter. Then press the arrow up until a value of 10 is displayed. Press Enter to accept. See Chapter 4 for additional keypad help. Next we will set the appropriate motor code. Because each Sureservo drive is capable of controlling several different motors, we must tell the drive which motor is connected. We will set P131 to 11 for this 200-watt motor. See Chapter 5 for all of the motor codes. Now we must cycle power to the drive. Warning: to prevent serious injury or damage to equipment, always start any new servo setup with the motor shaft disconnected from the load. In this quick start video, we will bypass mechanical overtravels. Please disconnect the load for the first test of the motor. Always wire an e-stop circuit into the power feed for the drive. Always drop the main incoming power for e-stop conditions, but remember that control power can remain on. Now we will set parameter P230 to 1. This temporarily overrides servo enable, clockwise limit, and counterclockwise limits. This parameter will revert to 0 if control power is cycled. This feature is purely for testing purposes. You should discreetly wire a servo enable and over-travel limit switches if appropriate for your application. If your application doesn't require over-travels, you can disable the respective inputs or use them for another purpose. The motor is now enabled. To jog the motor, go to P405, Jog Operation. Press Enter. The jog speed set point is displayed. The default is 20 RPM. Press Enter again to enter the jog operation mode. The LED display will show Jog. Press the up arrow or the down arrow to jog the motor forward or reverse. Press Mode to return to the jog speed selection. Let's increase the jog speed upward. Press Enter to select the speed and to re-enter the jog operation mode. Again, the arrow keys now allow jogging of the motor. Press Mode to exit the jog operation. When you have finished jogging the motor, you should cycle control power to the drive. This will reset P230, re-enabling the servo enable, the clockwise limit, and the counterclockwise limit inputs. The other changes we've made, such as the motor type and the jog speed, will be retained.